Oh boy. All right. Just let me click on this thing where I actually in print welcome you back. There we go. So I thought that since today is the last day of November, it would still be appropriate for me to wear my festive holiday flamingo shawl. And especially since it would be in keeping with my theme today, which is who are we wearing? And the challenge that I have every so often is that I go out for lunch or dinner or hang out with people who are really fashion conscious. I have an amazing friend, brilliant, talented, wonderful woman who's so creative and so well. She changes people's lives really, and she owns a clothing store, and she exclusively carries Canadian designers. And she has, for a number of years, become the kind of go-to person for women who are in positions of influence and authority on the world stage, because they have come to trust her decisions and her insights and instincts in how to dress them in outfits and looks that bring out their quality, that bring out their power, that allow them to walk into pretty much any place feeling that they are appropriately represented, and equally important, appropriately representing their country, because they are there for more than one reason. And so when so when I'm going to go out and have dinner with her, I'm looking in my closet and I'm thinking, I have no idea what she's going to be wearing. It's going to be somebody. So what I tend to go for, in contrast, is shock and awe, really, in some way, shape, or form. Not necessarily terrible, but what makes people blink. And then whenever she sees me when I've pulled it off, and she just laughs and shakes her head, because of course I can't compete with her on her territory. I bring my own flag. Good morning, Freddie. So what I wanted to talk about today, I was out and about doing some things for Christmas, and I noticed a couple of odd behaviors. And then I was having a conversation with a client yesterday, and I noticed it again. And I went away to think about it, because all that happens is I get a little kind of a ping, something's off. Something's just a little off. And I don't want to say, are you all right? If it doesn't look like anything's wrong, but I can sense that there's something that's just not in sync, I guess, is what I'm saying. And well, good morning, Mark. Nice to see you. And so the conversation I want to have today is, who are we wearing? And I have a couple of great stories, great stories to share. And so I'm going to start with that, because I love making you smile. I love surprising you and making you laugh. So my dad, as you should know by now, was in the military. And when he would go to a formal event, and the men would all check their hats at the coat check. If it was summer or not cold, they wouldn't necessarily be checking their coats, because they'd be wearing their uniform. But if they weren't wearing an overcoat, then the only thing they would check is their hat. Well, the thing is that all military hats look the same. So if you're in the officer's mess, if you're in the officer's dining room, wherever, then they're all going to be officers' hats, and there's no way. So what the men do is, on the inside of the hat, there's a kind of a plastic lining to protect the silk from the hair stuff. And so what they can do is they slip in a thing that says their name and their rank, and that way, when you pick up your hat, you just automatically look and you think, oops, and then you hand it back. Unless you're in a hurry and then they just hand you your hat with a tag and they're not paying attention, you get the wrong hat, you think it's funny, odd, maybe a little too big, and then you realize what you've done. So my dad recognized that early on and decided to do the thing that my dad became famous for, and which I think I've inherited. I'm fairly sure I inherited it. I think it's probably genetic. My dad wrote on his little card on the inside something that would make everybody blink. So what he wrote was this: look, Big words, look. So people look. Just, you stole this hat from, and his name and rank. And then underneath it, give it back. So, so what happened then was was people would then be talking about, oh God, I hope you didn't hope you didn't get Charlie Aguirre's hat by mistake. Oh my God, the last time. Did it happen to you? Oh yeah. Because of course my dad would never let them live it down. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. He would find some way to bring it up, much like I do with some of my friends for things that are I still find funny. I don't know if they do. But the idea is that it perpetuates a legend. And it's not just my legend, it becomes their legend, right? And I'm roping them into the entire story. So the idea, who are you wearing? You stole this from me. Give it back. What is wrong with you? Look. And my dad was 6'5". So shit. So he would do that, knowing, and then he'd hand off the hat, and he'd sometimes, if he was in that right kind of mood, he would say to the guy who was taking the hat, you know, morning colonel, my dad would say, and I was, I know, sir, I know. I'll take care of it. But more like this, because 6'5". And so the, you know, how I was raised by him was to make an entrance, be you in the best way that distinguishes you from all the other people who look a lot like you. Because of course my dad, you know, was in uniform a lot of the time. Well, how do you distinguish one guy in a uniform from all the other guys in a uniform, aside from tall? You can't, you know, use a pogo stick. Like you present in very similar ways, and we all do, you know, especially in winter up in Canada. I mean, so far still we're doing okay. Like it's hovering around the freezing mark, right? So whether you're Celsius or whatever the other one is, chocolate, you know that it's cool and it's warm enough to wear warm clothes, but you're not all bundled to here. So the only thing you can see, you know, are your eyes and, you know, the frost around your eyelashes and the, you know, the ugly hat with the ear flaps down and the red nose. I mean, it's very difficult to identify anybody for December, January, February, March, you know, of the year. So how do you make yourself distinctive? What is it that you bring with your mood and your attitude and your ideas and your presence and your energy? What is it that we bring to feel like we own our moment? Fahrenheit. Thank you, Freddie. I knew that. I just forgot it for a second. Sorry. Celsius, Fahrenheit. So, so what is it that we bring? And I don't mean that we have to enter every room saying "ta-da" and there's 9 guys with trumpets either in front of us or behind us. We don't need a marching band. But what is it that we can bring that allows our energy and our who we are-ness to just be part of the mood that's going on, separate and distinct, so that it's a tapestry of all different colors and shapes and sizes and glittery and whatnot. When I was parking my car last night, there's a fellow who parks 3 stalls down from me. His car is always really clean because, by the way, I've come across him washing his car there. And he came by and he said, "How do you keep your car so clean?" And I said, "I wash it." And he said, "No, you don't." And I said, "No, I mean, when I go get gas, I have them wash it." And he said, "Oh, I see." And I said, "Listen, I have asked 3 times to get on this car wash thing. I'm ready to put my name on the list." He laughed, walked away. And I said, "Is that a no?" because I want to feel that where I live is my home. And I want to feel that where I am around at the end of a great day or an exhausting day or at the beginning of one, I want to feel that I am part of a tribe, part of a community. And the only way I can do that is to bring my authentic me to the table. And how can I do that if I am walking around communicating somebody else's mood, attitude, ideas? How can I do that? I'm in disguise then. How would anybody ever get an opportunity to decide that they like me, that I look like I'd be fun to get to know? How do I do that? And I, and I was thinking about this a lot, obviously, because it's come up. So the other story that I have to tell is screamingly funny, because not only can I don't feel it essential to carve away whatever disposable money I have in order to buy something that has somebody else's name on it. I mean, the flamingo thing is a joke, right? The flamingo thing began a long time ago, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. The flamingo thing is my way of saying, happy holidays. And then they look at the flamingo and they think, what the hell are you celebrating? and so it wakes people up. It captures their imagination for a second. And now we're on the same page for a second. We're connected. And that's the opportunity to say, hi, good morning, how are you? Because you have their attention. So in terms of who am I wearing, this other story, I used to shop when I was in Montreal a lot. I used to shop in this amazing area of town where it's the northeast end of Montreal, and it's where all the designers and importers have their offices. And every Saturday throughout the year, between 10 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon, the designers and their offices, they're not showrooms, they're not stores. The designers, well, they have to get rid of the clothes. The designs come in for the season. They get them all organized for Fashion Week. And Fashion Week isn't a fashion show for the public necessarily. Fashion Week is for all the stores to come and see what's new and then to place orders. I'll have 50 of these and 2,000 of those and one of them. And okay, so at the end of that, what do you do with the designs? You don't have a showroom. You just have an office. What do you do with them? What they do with them is they sell them. And they sell them on Saturdays between 10 a.m. and 1 in the afternoon in their offices in these big office tower buildings. And so they want to get rid of them. So they sell them wholesale, tax-free. It's just, and cash only. Let's get rid of it. And so it's a wonderful opportunity on a couple of levels, obviously. And one of them is you get to see what's coming. You get to see what the look is going to be that has been kind of generally decided by all these designers. You get to see the next season because that's what you're buying. You're buying ahead of the trend. You have only one of something that only will be visible in the stores soon, which is kind of a fun thing, right? So I have this coat. It's a raincoat, and I have a picture of it, and sometime I'll post it. It's floor length, and it has the biggest hood you've ever seen, and it's reversible, and it's a raincoat, so it's weather resistant. And it's huge. It's oversized, great big hanging sleeves, enormous pointed hood, long flowing coat, pockets, and it's just kind of this event, this coat. And I look like a druid if I have the hood up. It's this huge hood, this point. I look like a druid. If I put my hands in the sleeves, I look like a monk, but like a. So, the monks are well dressed this season, and I have never seen another one anywhere, which is kind of cool, right? Because you can see me in a crowd. When I took Charles and Kat out to Earl Stanley's Maple Lane farm when Charles and Kat came up from the deep south to come and visit Canada, we went out to Earl's farm. They wanted some maple sugar stuff, and it was raining. It rained the whole week, and they were here. Anyway, we're standing there, and Earl comes out of a barn, and he gets on his little thing, and he's driving up. He stops, and he gets out, and he says, "I could recognize you from 500 yards away. How are you, Abby?" big hug. And then I introduced him. And turns out they had stuff in common, of course. But I hadn't seen Earl in a long time. I hadn't seen Earl, except, here on social media, in maybe, I don't know, 10 years, 15. I hadn't seen him, maybe 20. But he's laughing like he just saw me 20 minutes ago. I could recognize you 500 yards away. And I said, really? How? He said, what, are you kidding? Have you seen what you're wearing? Oh, that. And I said, but it's practical, you see, because hood, raining, and if it's windy, the umbrella won't, go inside out and fly away. Anyway, I'm walking across the street with Carol Hay, and it was raining, and we had gone to lunch, and we were going someplace else. I'm walking across the street. We're in the middle of the crosswalk, and some woman coming toward me, and it's nasty and it's cold, and we're all bundled up. Woman coming toward me suddenly turns around and said, excuse me. And I turned around, and she said, who are you wearing? And I said, who am I? Oh. And I told her the designer, and she said, fabulous, and kept going. And Carol was wearing a short little jacket, right? She said, Columbia. I looked at her and said, what? And she said, move, Columbia. And she said, last year, when we crossed the street, I had to hold on to the lamppost. I was laughing so hard. And she said, it's annoying going anywhere with you. I'm sorry. Columbia. It's a zip-up thing, Sensible. She was dressed sensibly for the weather. Columbia. And so the reason I want to talk about who are we wearing is the decision we're making or not making, not consciously making. You don't follow trends, Abby. You set them. Well, Freddie, thank you very much. May I quote you? I'm going to tell my marketing person who's going to say, well, that is one way of saying it. Thank you, Freddie. So here's the thing. All of the silly hoo-ha, just set it over here for a second. If we're not consciously choosing to wear something representing something else, if we're not going out of our way to say, that's the statement I want to make today, because if we're doing that, then it's ours and we own it. And if we want to wear a shirt that has a great big letter on it or a great big brand design on it because we love it, great. That means that we are owning it, that we are aligning ourselves on purpose with whatever that message is. So, if it's a sustainable one, or if it's a frivolous one, or if it's a what the hell is that one, whatever it is that we are choosing to stand beside and say, I'm with them, they're with me, we are us, perfect, absolutely perfect. If we're not, though, if we are kind of on autopilot, and I talk about autopilot a lot, if we're kind of on autopilot and we just wear the thing because we've always worn it, then it's likely that we've forgotten why we chose to wear it in the first place. And this is true of our mood and our attitude and our ideas as well. If we are without thinking, it's okay to do anything if it's a conscious choice, of course. Well, unless it's illegal, and harmful. So if we're not paying attention, we're not driving the bus. Okay? We're not driving the bus if we're not paying attention. If we're not driving, we are the spectator. And as I was saying to somebody the other day, spectator, we always think it's a free ride. No. Every spectator I've ever met has had to buy a ticket. And whether we pay for the ticket in advance or we end up paying for it later, we still had to buy the ticket in order to have the seat. Spectator or rower or driver, it doesn't matter. We have to invest something for the privilege of having that seat. Correct? Correct. So, and I mean, we won a seat. Okay. How did we win it? It was a contest. Then we entered the contest. Then someone we have invested our time and attention and affection on, they won a contest, then that was our investment in them. They take us. That's how we bought our ticket as a spectator. There is nothing that happens that is completely free. And I don't mean it's costly or it's a penalty. I mean what we invest, we get in return. So who are we wearing? The question is, have we thought about it enough to realize that maybe it doesn't suit us anymore? Maybe it doesn't fit us anymore. Maybe it's not suiting the way we feel today. You know, I had a different shawl I was going to wear, and I love these different scarf shawl things because it's a touch, right? You don't have to wear a whole thing; it's just a touch. And I looked at it and I thought, no, I love that. I love that. I'm just going to love it another day. I'm looking for something more frivolous. And then I saw the flamingo shawl and I thought, well, perfect. Festive as all get out. Just screams Christmas. So what I think we do without paying attention is we follow a trend, but less than a trend. Let's say we step into the current that is going in our general direction, and we use the power of that current to make our rowing exercise less stressful, less strenuous, less overwhelming and all-consuming. If we want to go that way and the current is going that way, then we can get in there and we can navigate our little boat through and around and up and over and around. You only get out of something what you put into it. Very true, Freddie. So if we choose the current because it's going in our direction, and then we can use it to leverage the power of it, and then we can navigate and figure out when to get out of the stream and park the boat, tie it up. Great. But if we got in the current a long time ago and we just haven't paid attention, and we just get back in the boat and we just keep going, and it doesn't occur to us until something boop comes up and we think, wait a minute, this is not where I want to be. This is not how I'm feeling today. This is not the group I need to be standing with in this moment. There's nothing wrong with the group necessarily. I'm just not feeling it. Then we make the active decision to go and either stand with another group or go home or walk by ourselves. Whatever it is that we choose, we are giving ourselves permission to spread our own mood and our own attitude and our own ideas. And it was very interesting. I had a couple of conversations yesterday. And one of them was with a very long-time friend of mine who said, this getting back into dating is really tough. And I said, well, if it's tough, why are you doing it? Should be exciting. And she said, listen, the number of times I go into a restaurant and they say, oh, table for one. And I said, they're not saying, oh, table for one. They're saying, oh, table for one. You're hearing them wrong. And she said, well, either way, when I sit down at the table, I feel like I'm standing out like a sore thumb. And I said, really? Why? She said, because there's nobody in the other chair. And I said, well, that's where you put your coat. That way you don't have to sit on it. She said, well, I could hang it up. And I said, oh, yeah, sure. Or that's what the other chair is for. And And I said, you can spread out, put your purse on the other side. She said, why does it bother you to be alone? And I said, okay, so that's a fair question. And the fair question is, who am I? Who are my people? And why am I okay doing this the way I'm doing this? And the answer is that part of it is the story that I've been told that I grew up in. It's part of the fashion I'm wearing. It's part of the brand that I'm representing. That I am an outlier in many ways. And take a Care Bear with you to put in the other seat. Oh, Patrick, you see what Patrick is talking about here. You see what a good idea, Patrick. I must remember to do that. Take a Care Bear with you. I love my people. So why are we concerned so deeply about the reactions of other people? Well, it's primitive. It's age old. We want to be welcomed by a strong, powerful tribe that will allow us to be in a cave with them to keep us safe from the saber-toothed whatnots outside. Those are the origins. It makes sense. People like us are over here. Scary things are over there. Until such time as we apparently have to move over there. And then we discovered that they're not scary at all. They just growled a lot to keep away their saber-toothed whatnots. And they thought we might be one of them. So first of all, we try to make a friend. If it doesn't work, okay, no harm, no foul. My bad. See you. Have a great life. And move on. When somebody sends us a signal, as my friend said, when they're clearly holding up a red flag, what do I do? She said. What do you do, Abby, when somebody is clearly holding up a red flag? And I said, avoid them. Is this a trick question? And she said, well, okay, but what if they invited you out? And I said, if they invited me out and they're holding a red flag, I would have said no. And she said, oh, well, okay, but I said, okay, stop. What is it that you're afraid of? What is it that you want? What is it that you feel is missing? Is it approval? Is it acceptance? Is it protection? And is it a combination of those things? Answer, I don't know. I said, okay, well, let's say it is. Let's say it's belonging. Let's say it's togetherness. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a bit of a loner. It doesn't mean that there aren't times when I want to feel like I belong. I want to walk into a crowded place and a bunch of people say, Norm, or Abby. Everybody from time to time wants to be Norm. Everybody likes the idea that they have made enough of an impact. People would think that rubber gloves belong to the dishwasher. Oh my God. Oh my God. I've just realized, Patrick, what do you think of this? It might be difficult for me to bring a Care Bear everywhere, but I could easily bring a pair of yellow rubber gloves and put them across from me at a table. Can you imagine the confused look on the waiter's face? Thank you, Freddie. Creating confusion everywhere she goes. So here's the thing. If we want to be cared for, if we want to be respected, if we want to be cherished, if we want to be valued by other people, the first thing that has to happen is that those other people have to have those abilities all by themselves without us even in the picture. Those other people have to have the capacity to respect people who are different, to value people who bring originality, who who have the training and the nurturing and the happy experience of cherishing someone who cherishes them back. That is what other people have to bring in order to qualify with us, if that is what we want. Well, how do you find someone? Well, the last time I found someone, I made a list. There's a great, I don't know if you've been following, but this whole remarkable branding, marketing, entertainment, messaging phenomenon, this breaking wave that has been generated by this singer Taylor Swift in putting together the arc of her career into one lovely, glorious package, and then finding 50 different ways to promote it and market it and sell it to as wide an audience as possible. And then while doing that, having somebody do a documentary on the doing of it, and then packaging and promoting the documentary separate and apart. I mean, it's genius what she and her people and her team are doing, because it is establishing a footprint. It is creating a definition of a tribe, and it is not compromising who she is in any way. It is showing people how she as a person and how she as an artist, therefore as both a person, personally and professionally, has gradually evolved through her life on this planet and in her career, because her presentation and her style and her look and her musical genre has evolved over time, and she is not afraid to show us her growth path. Why? First of all, it's honest and it's easy to maintain and hold up. And second, it allows people to identify with somebody who is not afraid to say, I used to do that, now I do this. I'm proud of that. Doesn't mean I wasn't ready to do this. So wanting to be like her, wanting to wear what she wears, do what she does, is not a crazy idea, except that she doesn't have a very singular brand. What she has is a very singular intention. And the intention is be you, and be you unashamed. And if you know her story, while pretty as a child, beautiful little girl, smart as a whip, she was still bullied for whatever reason, for whatever whatever energies that were happening when she was in school, whatever she sent out and whatever came back. She went through bullying periods. We all have. She told herself, and this was a very, very revealing and vulnerable thing to say. Somebody said, how did you handle it? How do you handle it? And she said, I tell myself it's okay, because I'll be able to write about it and sing about it. I will be able to use it as a rallying cry. This is a lesson. Okay, I'm going to take the lesson and make it my message. And she has. So whatever has been flung at her, she has said, thank you very much. She's turned it around and made it into something else. She has maybe been overpowered. She knows she will get her power back. Why? She's done it before. And if she's done it before, she can do it again. So back to my friend who says, well, I don't know how to find, and I don't know how to say yes or no. And it suddenly occurred to me that she was wearing someone else's beliefs. So we talked about it. And I said, is it possible that this? Is it possible that this? Is it possible that this? Because these are the things you're saying, and they're not you. So they must be somebody else. And as I was saying that to her, I thought of my mom. And I wanted to share this as well, because it's really important. It's really important. I tripped and fell into show business. And then I had the singular intelligence to take credit for it. I meant to do that. This kind of entrance, oh, they love it in New York. And I channeled my dad in being a little outrageous and proud of what I did. And I was on my way to a very, very special event. And this was now after my dad had died. And I wanted to take my mother because it was a lovely event. We got to dress up and be fabulous. And I wanted her to, because she was a beautiful, beautiful woman. And just her sense of style was off the charts. And I said, I want you to come. You'll be my significant other. You'll be my plus one. And so she got all dolled up and she looked amazing. And and we got in the car and I'm driving us over there. Now, the two things about my mom: she never learned to drive. It was of a time when it would have been helpful. However, she really didn't feel comfortable driving. She felt a lot more comfortable driving in reverse. For some reason, she said, I just don't feel comfortable with all these people coming at me. And I said, well, can you imagine how the other ones feel when you're coming at them in reverse? Because they don't expect it. And she said, oh, I never thought of that. So she didn't drive, which meant that she had to navigate that situation and invite people to drive her places, take her places, chauffeur her places. And that was also part of everything that she had grown up deciding, because her mother, my grandmother, was a force of nature, a force to be reckoned with. My grandmother took a very solid look at her life when she was a young girl and said, yes, okay, except that I'm going to change a few things. And then in her young adulthood, she did the same thing. She said, yes, I'm going to change a few things. And when she left home with chaperones, she came to Canada. And so did a young man that she had been seeing, and he had chaperones, and they came and they bought land, and they were going to be gentlemen farmers in the Midwest, because that was the ad campaign, getting people to come to Canada back in that day. And the thing was, they chose badly because they had no idea what they were doing, and they ended up in a farming community that eventually had been the Dust Bowl in Canada when the drought was on. And when she arrived and realized the mistake that she had made, it didn't take her very long to say, no, I'm going to change this. And her husband did not want to leave. He thought that he could make a go of it. And she said, fine, you go here, I'm going there. And she picked up the children and moved farther west to the West Coast, to Victoria, where a lot of Brits kind of settled, because I think the weather is a lot like England, and they felt like they'd sort of come home. And the thing about my grandmother was that she was fearless and carved her niche. My mother was the youngest, and my mother carved her niche by inviting people to take care of her. Her older sister always used to take her, if she was sick. Her older sister would take her medication for her. Her older sister would do her chores. Her older brother would be her bodyguard on a first date, help her get jobs. And then she met my dad, and she took a look at him and said, yep, that's the one. And the gauntlet my dad had to pass was meeting my grandmother, who turned a lot of hopefuls away, who didn't have the strength of will. So my mother had a different take on how you survive. My mother's take on how you survive is that if you are not strong and powerful and fearless, then you align yourself with someone who is. And you invite them to use their superpower to be who they are. And you use yours to allow them to protect you. Not bad. Good message. However, that was the universal message from her. So here we are on that special day, and I'm an eternal passenger too. I'm always chipping in for gasoline. Yes. So there we are. We're on our way to this event, and I'm pretty excited because what has happened to me, the first opportunity to get a show, came as a result of a stage show I had written. I was offered a television series, and I said yes. I said, do you pay money and is it legal? Yes. Okay, then yes. I'll be right over. Have the contract ready for me. And so here I am. I'm starring on this television series, and it's wonderful, and I'm very excited, and I'm young and cute and all that. And we're going to this event, and what we've done is the television people have decided to do my show live at a really, really upscale club where there are live entertainers, and I'm going to interview them for the show, because my show was like Entertainment Tonight. Um, and I interviewed all the celebrities who came to Ottawa, and all the dignitaries and so on. So it was a very, very cool job to have. So we're driving there, and my mother said, "Do you have money for parking?" And I said, "I don't need money for parking, Mom." And she said, "Sweetheart, everybody needs money for parking." Now, this is a woman who had never owned a car and never drove. And I said, "Mom, I'm the star of the show. I have a parking space assigned. Someone will be valet parking my car." And she said, "Well, you can't know that for sure." And I said, yeah, I can. And sure enough, we got there, and helpful minions sprang and opened the doors and told us we looked lovely, and I gave them my keys, and we were escorted into the building. And my mother said, "Oh, this is nice." And we came in, and I had already told people that I was bringing my mom. And so the people who were greeting us, "Oh, this must be your mother. Oh my goodness, it's wonderful to meet you." And they knew her first name, so they were calling her by her first name. And she was very pleased because she was lovely, and she should be. She should be recognized as somebody amazing. She was an extraordinarily beautiful woman. She was talented. She was intelligent. She was funny. She had apprenticed with Canada's Group of Seven. She was a recognized artist. I mean, why shouldn't she be feted, right? This is my mom, and more than that, this is who she is. And so that's how they were behaving. And they escorted her to a table, and she was there with a couple of local celebrities, and so I introduced them, and I sat for a few minutes, and I said, "Mom, I'm going to have to leave and go over there because I have to work now." And she said, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" And I said, "Mom, you're out. These people are going to be with you, and I have one of the show people is going to be coming and sitting with you." And she said, "Well, why can't I sit with you?" And I said, "Because I'm working, Mom. I'm going to go and sit over there, and I'm interviewing people. I'm not at a table without you. I'm working." And she said, "Well, I wish I'd known that." And I said, "Well, you did know that." And she said, "Well, I didn't think you meant it." And I said, "How could I not mean it? I'm working tonight." And she said, "Well, you're certainly not dressed like you're working." And I said, "I am exactly dressed like I'm working." And the thing is, I knew she watched my show. I knew she knew what I was doing. What she was trying to do was make me about her, about us, because that was her comfort zone. That was her messaging. That was her brand. She was always with someone who was respectable and able and willing and ready to cherish and take care of her. That was how she felt life should be. That was what she wanted me to believe too. And she simply could not accept that I was not her. Could not. She just felt that I wasn't hearing the message. So when I went and sat, and the cameras are on, the lights poof really bright and doing the thing, people are fixing my makeup, and and at one point I said to the makeup girl, "It would be really great." And I said to our director, if we could have the camera turn and have my mom, if I can mention my mom. And they said, "Oh, absolutely." So the makeup person came over and said something to my mother, and she, and so a little puff, puff, puff. And then I waved at her and I said, 2 minutes. And she's like this. And so the studio guy said to her something, something, something. She said, oh, well, I'm not prepared. And, and so I thought, okay, and I said I'll be, so I went over and I said, "Mom, you're not going to be interviewed. We're just going to turn the lights on you and the camera, and I'm going to wave. I have the microphone. I'm going to say, 'Hi, Mama.' And all you have to do is wave. That's it." And she said, "Oh, well, I wish I'd known." Okay, it's going to be great. And the people at the table with her are all excited because they're going to be, and they got poofed and everything's fabulous. So I go back and everything unfolded as it should. And at one point I said, "Before I introduce my first guest, I would like you all to meet my mama." And so they did this. And I said, "Hi, Mama." And she waved back, and I said, and she's with some very, very lovely people, and they all waved. And so then came back and I got to work, and there was a live band and there was a handsome MC. So there was dancing after me. It was a really, really fun, interesting, glamorous time. And, I could see my mother was having a lovely time. People were asking her to dance, and the dinner was lovely. I mean, it was everything that you could possibly want to have your beloved parent having the best time, and I provided it. That just was so awesome, right? And when the evening ended, and I was able to go back a couple of times and chit chat, but I was working. I mean, really, it was my job that night. And each time I left the table, she would say, "Well, how long are you going to be?" Because this was all new to her, and I understood, kind of. And when I was driving us home, and everybody had thanked us and told her, and she was not excluded, she was not set aside, she was not off in a corner. She was, however, in unfamiliar territory, and it made her nervous, and it's understandable. Completely get it. When I'm driving us home, I said, "So what did you think, Mom? Was that fun?" And she said, "Well, it certainly was. I mean, my goodness, I can't remember. Well, I guess the last time I had this much fun was when your father and I something, something, something." And I said, "Well, I'm very glad. I'm very glad that this rate's really close to that. I'm really glad. Makes me feel like Daddy's here with us." And she said, "Yes. Now, speaking of that," and she shifted gears and she said, "I need to tell you, because I don't think you're paying attention. You're not getting any younger, and you need to find someone who is going to take care of you now. You need someone with a good job who has the resources to take care of you, because you can't keep doing this by yourself. This is not what it's supposed to be. You need to be looked after." And I said, "I understand, Mom. I understand." And when we got home, and I parked the car and I walked her to her apartment, and I said, "Mama, what if I don't want that?" And she said, "Don't be ridiculous. It's like eating your vegetables. You may not want it, but it's good for you. You may have to set aside these things that you think are important right now. This is good for you. You need to listen to me." And I said, "Okay, Mama, I'll take it into consideration." And kissed her goodnight, and I drove home. And I thought and thought and thought, and clearly this is a long time ago, and clearly I still think about it, that there were really two things going on that night from my mom. One was her desire, her habit, her behavior to attract to her the kinds of people who would naturally want to look after her, because that was her way of coping. The other thing was going on was her trying to make me carry her brand, share, communicate, spread her message. She wanted me wearing her mood, attitude, ideas. Why? She wanted the best for me. It's a natural instinct. The reason it's unhelpful is this. My mother was raised at a time when that was how it worked. For the most part. For the most part, women were not CEOs of companies. They didn't forge their own careers. They didn't decide at the age of 30 or 35 or 40 that they might marry now, or they might never marry. They might have a child or never have a child. That was rare. That was the exception to the rule. And my mother, during her day of coming into her own as an adult, looked around at her world, at the tribes, at the trend, at the dangers, and said, "I choose this." She chose not the path of her mother. She chose her path, and she gathered her older siblings around her to support her path. And then she wanted me to do the same. Gather around her and support her path and echo her values, her priorities, her choices, her methods, her mood, her attitude, her ideas. And you know what? That style doesn't suit me. It doesn't show me in the right light. The flamingos suit me. The copper car suits me. The yellow rubber gloves. The Care Bears suit me. My own crazy, weird, eccentric sense of style suits me. Do I surround myself with people who are strong and talented and funny? Yes. Are some of them nurturing? Yes. Are some of them completely independent and crazy? Oh, yeah. Why? Because that is the place that makes me feel whole. So when I was talking to my two friends yesterday, two separate people, completely different, and yet we're having the same story, the same conversation. What do you do when the person you're with shows red flags? I said, check, please. Did you see the red flags before you said yes in the first place? Well, yes, I thought it would be okay. Why? And both of them separately, in different ways, said, well, you have to make compromises. And I said, yes, you do have to make compromises. Of course you make compromises. The number of compromises I've made in my life. Oh my God. That's a whole other video. The point is this: make them on your terms. Well, what if he wants this and I don't? Say no. Talk about it. Or what if she wants this and I don't? Say no. Talk about it. What if they don't listen? Okay. Say no. Don't go. Last quick story. A very athletic friend of mine. I don't know why I don't know why I attract all these really athletic people. Maybe it's my dad thing. Yeah, it's probably my dad. And my mother was really athletic too. So maybe that's it. It's just natural. But these athletes, these friends of mine, they're obsessed, really. They're these extreme athletes. We don't stop till we've hurt ourselves. Okay. I'll wait for you in the bar. I'll meet you after. This woman phones me and she says, we're going up to the mountain this weekend. They had a beautiful house. Oh, how wonderful. She said, you should come. And I said, I would love to. She said, good. So we're going to go hiking. And I said, what a great idea. I'll bring a book. And she said, you can't read a book while you're hiking. And I said, no, I'm going to read a book while you're hiking. I'm not hiking. Have we met? And she said, look, Abby, you need to get out of this whole idea and get more athletic. I said, I am athletic. I just do it my way. And she said, we're going hiking. Get hiking shoes. So I went to this discount shoe store. It's literally called Pay Less. And I went in and I found, have you seen the picture of the sneakers that I had Mel's Marvels draw a stiletto high heel on the side so I can wear the sneakers, but it looks like I'm wearing yeah, okay. So I've been doing wedge sneakers for a long time. This was one of the first pairs that I found. Ridiculous, crazy wedge. And I looked at them and I thought, oh, you know what? Mountains like this, right? Okay. Well, if I put the wedge shoes on, but I turn backwards, like instead of climbing, facing up, if I face down in those shoes, then I'd be level, right? Because this will work. I just figure out which way the mountain's going and I'll face the other way so the shoes aren't. I'll be on level ground. And I tried out that ridiculous comment to the salesperson who looked at me and said, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. If you're going to go do it, take a picture. And I thought, I'm onto something. So when I arrived, there she is, scary and bossy and wonderful and beautiful. And she said, all right, let me see the hiking shoes. And I said, oh my God, you're going to love them. She said, how does that even work? And I said, well, it's very simple. And I explained it to her. And she said, and how are you going to go? How are you going to do it backwards? Who's going to look after you? And I said, I don't know. I don't know. Why do I need looking after? Can't I just carry a stick and lean on it? And she said, no. She said, that's not how this works. And I said, okay, then. Well, fortunately, I also brought my book. I'll see you later. And they went hiking. So they had a fabulous time. They love hiking. I had a fabulous time. I hate hiking. I read a book. I sat on their deck. It was wonderful. The sun was out. I felt amazing. I still wore the shoes. I got to be with them without forcing myself to be of them. I got to be part of the event without giving the essential me-ness away. I got to be with, not of, not from. I got to be part of. I got to maintain my thread in the tapestry. Is that easy? No. No, it isn't. It is difficult. Why? Because everybody wants us to be like them. The fact is, though, cloning doesn't make us exciting. Cloning makes us robots. The other thing is that if everybody's exactly the same and we only breed with each other and we only do exactly as we've always done, you end up with inbreeding, and you end up, and that doesn't work. That's not how it's meant to be. You always need new strains of things in order to keep the person and the flowing and the evolution alive and growing and moving. So the question, who are we wearing, actually has a second question attached to it. And the second question is, and did we choose it on purpose? Because if we chose it on purpose, we can ask ourselves why. And if we chose it on autopilot, it's our opportunity to become aware. Because if all we do is walk around saying the thing that someone else said, no one ever gets to know who we are. And we never get to know who they are. And isn't that sad? Don't we want to know who they are? Don't we want them to be part of our day on their terms? Of course we do. That's part of the definition of love, I think. Anyway, speaking of love, I'm doing a good thing for me tomorrow. I'm going to go and have a medical professional have a chat with me to make sure that everything is fabulous, because I haven't had a chance to do that in a while. And I'm looking forward to it. And so it's a little bit of self-care. And then on the weekend, I think I'm going out someplace to see some entertainer do something amazing. And if not, if the weather prohibits, then I'm going to stay home and I'm going to have a wonderful time in this beautiful little nest that I've created, surrounded by my flamingos, and do more work on pivotry. Because this whole pivotry in motion idea is that we are allowed, when we suddenly realize that this look no longer looks good on us, we have permission to say, I think I want to wear this instead. I think I want to try this place instead. And if we go someplace and we don't like it, and everybody's saying, oh, isn't it amazing? We don't have to say, no, I think it sucks. We can say, you know, it's different, isn't it? We don't have to be rude and ugly. We also don't have to go back if we don't like it. So that's the message today. Who are we wearing? Did we choose it on purpose? Is it autopilot? If we don't like it, guess what we get to do? We get to go back and look in the closet and choose something else. We get to be pivotry in motion, because that's how it's supposed to be. Isn't that amazing? Okay, enough now. What is it? How long have I been on? Oh, goodness, it's almost an hour. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being part of this. Tomorrow is the 1st of December. The month of Christmas is upon us. Whether you celebrate that holiday or other holidays, whether you're with big groups of people or small or by yourself, leaning into this month, make sure it makes you happy. Make sure that is your brand message. Because why? Because you deserve it. And remember to hug your loved ones. They deserve it too. And I will see you on Tuesday. Thank you for watching. Mwah.